Episode number 134 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. So welcome to today's episode. And today I'm going to be talking about a subject that I think is actually really important to address. And it's actually something that I was inspired to talk about because of a client actually who was a listener. That's how she found me. She listened to my podcast and she had mentioned to me that before coming to me, she had spoken to another professional, another practitioner, somebody who, without giving names, is a coach basically for menstrual cycle. And what was interesting to me is that she felt really vulnerable, my client, when speaking to this person, and had mentioned that she was given almost like using fear tactics in order to get her to buy her program. So it's something that I'm very well aware of. It is something that people use. Unfortunately, marketing is, there's many different facets to marketing. And some people really do use that. In my opinion, when it comes to things like this that are much more sensitive and you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with trauma, and you're dealing with a very vulnerable time in a person's life, I just personally don't see fear tactics as being an appropriate thing to do. And unfortunately, it is being used, and it's just something that some people use for marketing. It doesn't just only happen with practitioners or coaches, it also sometimes happens at the doctor's office. So I really just feel it's really important to address this because it is something that women trying to conceive are dealing with. And it is something that is a reality, and it is something that happens a lot when people are trying to find other professionals to work with. So the reason I want to mention this here on today's episode is so that when you are going through the fertility journey and you're going to either doctors, practitioners, online coaches, which are becoming abundant today, and it's amazing, and most of them have the right intention, and most of them have actually gone through a fertility journey themselves and want to help others that have gone through what they've gone through. So they understand the pain and they're very compassionate. However, there are, an element of people trying to sell and make money and make this a business, which understandably so. I mean, if somebody's doing this for a living, they have to make money somehow, and it's an exchange of energy, and that's completely understandable. So, of course, there's an energy exchange. That's 100%, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, something that I don't like is when people start to use these fear tactics. And because of this, it really bothered me when I spoke to my client because she was actually feeling broken down from this. And when I realized that this actually made her question her own body and her own ability to figure things out without, having to use or pay money, really bothered me. It really bothered me enough where I actually approached my client and I said, listen, is it okay if I anonymously use your story to speak on the podcast? Because I bet that she's not the only person that has gone through this. And for anybody to go to a professional and do a discovery call or kind of just learn about their services and then be given information that almost makes them doubt that they're going to be able to handle or go on successfully without the help of that person, that is a type of fear tactic of selling. And you see that a lot of times anywhere you go. Car salesmen, that's a sales tactic that basically tries to convince the person in front of them if you don't use my services, you're going to have a much harder time. What I can give you is something that you can't really give yourself. And basically, obviously, if you are going to a doctor or a professional, you're probably going to get something from them that you can't give yourself, just because they have a different perspective. However, that does not mean that you not using their services is going to put you at a much more risky situation, or not risky, but it's going to create an unsuccessful path for you, and that you can't do without them. And there's the difference. And I wanted to let you know that as a professional, and as a professional that is friends with other professionals in the same field, many of us, and I had conversations with my colleagues, many of us are about empowering people regardless if we get paid or hired or not. And that's number one. So speaking from a professional perspective, if somebody comes to me and wants to know what I do, I tell them what I do. I don't go in and tell them that they need what I do, otherwise they're not going to do well or anything like that. What I do is just give them information, give them knowledge of what I do and what I can help them with. But if they say they're not ready or they'll think about it, then I don't press them. I don't say anything, but because my perspective is I prefer people to come to me who are aligned with me, because what I see in my office is that if people are not aligned with me, and it happens because there's chemistry, and with some people you'll really be able to help, and some people you're just not the right person for them. And I'm perfectly okay with it, because it's the same thing in relationships. And that's how I see it. I really do see it as a chemistry. You're matched up with certain people. And I don't want to be matched up with the wrong person, because I'm not going to be able to help them. And so ultimately, I really don't see a loss in thinking that way. And I also think that it's important for people who do choose to work with me, or my friends feel the same way, my colleagues, that it is a match. And if they're meant to be or they're aligned, it's even better. If they're not aligned, it's fine, perfectly fine. And sometimes, as a matter of fact, I actually give them other people's contact information that I think would work better for them. And my point is, I don't feel as a practitioner that I'm losing by doing that. Because I think when you are working in this kind of field, you have to work from a place of ethics. And in this field, I don't think that anybody has any business working in this field to try to take advantage of anybody. But unfortunately, we are living in this real world, and people do take advantage of people. And so the reason why I want to talk about this is not to say that some people are bad or good or whatever. I just want to bring awareness to you and to your journey that when you are going to people and you are seeking information, and as it is, I know that when you're going through the fertility journey, you're spending a lot of money. You're spending a lot of money, figuring out what's going on medically, and possibly going to IVF, IUI, whatever it is that you are doing in your journey, or even just buying supplements, and then also seeking coaches. So in so doing, you're investing a lot of money, and many times it's worth it. The money is worth it because you're actually getting back if you're in the right place. However, in this kind of moment, I just want you to really sit with yourself when you speak to these professionals and figure out, am I feeling right with this? Do I feel less than? Do I feel like I'm almost missing out? But not in a positive way, in a negative way, like something's wrong with me if I don't use this person. And really pay attention to what they're saying to you, what their message is. And if they claim that they can tell how you're going to do, if you don't use them, or how you're going to do in general, or if they can tell you what your future is and they're going to predict your outcome, that's a red flag. because nobody can predict your outcome ever. And if somebody's promising you something that's unrealistic that they can't possibly know, that's a red flag. And I want to say this because I know that going through fertility challenges is a very vulnerable time. And unfortunately, there are some people out there that will take advantage of that. And it's not a good thing, but it's a reality. It's just a reality. And when I spoke to my client, to me, it was a real wake-up call. And I felt really, really strong about speaking about this because I think it's an important topic. It's not a pleasant topic, but it's an important topic to address. And I wanted you to understand what it was like from my perspective and from the perspective of other colleagues of mine who I have very great relationships with and feel very strongly about empowering people. And a lot of these people are doing this for free. They're basically empowering people, sharing information, putting it on their Facebook groups for free. A lot of it's for free. And of course, they charge to work with people because it's a lot more customized. But in general, they come from a place of really trying to empower people. So there are people that do try to empower people, and those people do not put any kind of pressure. They don't tell anybody what their future is going to look like. And they also don't use fear tactics to make people buy quickly out of desperation because they feel pressured. And I really want to make this point so that you can consider when you're going through any kind of professional, including doctors, everybody. The good thing about going to doctors is typically if you have insurance, and hopefully you do, you can do a lot of different testing, and I'm sure it's not as expensive to just get opinions. And so it's important to really go to a bunch of different places so that you can really see who you connect with, see who you feel intuitively like you trust. I did an episode on intuition. I did an episode on empowerment because those are things that are important to do when you're going through this. And listen to yourself. Go and speak to a bunch of different people. The same thing goes for coaches. Go and speak to a bunch of different coaches, a bunch of different fertility coaches, or whatever type of coach that you want to help you if that is the route that you feel drawn to do. Some people don't even need it, but some people feel like they do need it. And in that case, it's important to speak to several. Many times they offer free consultations, free calls. So call them. Have the conversation. I would even suggest doing a Zoom so you can actually see their face, because then you'll get a better feel if you really connect with their energy or not. And you can also, we subconsciously do read body language. And so you can kind of get a better feel of the person. And it's important to listen to your intuition. If you feel something, it does not feel quite right, there are some red flags. If you feel disempowered after that conversation, and if you start to question yourself after that conversation, that is a red flag. And this is exactly what happened with my client, and this is why I feel that it's important to bring this up in the conversation, because it is not acceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable in my mind. I know the person she was referring to. Really disappointed, to be honest with you, at what I heard. And that's where I'm not going to address anything with a person, and I'm not going to, with the practitioner, I'm not going to, you can't do that. You can't go and seek out all the people that do this kind of thing and address it. But the best thing that I could do, and I realized, is speak about this on my podcast so that you can hear my words and think about it before you speak to people, or if you speak to people, because nobody can tell you your own future, and nobody can tell you with certainty how you're going to do with or without their services. If they do, it's not based in truth, number one. So don't let that get you in your core. And number two, it's a red flag because it's just not true. It's just not true. And so you want to look for humility and humbleness with the person that you're working with. And you want to feel a sense of safety. And for sure, when you get off the phone, if you feel awful, and you feel like you're doubting yourself, you're not feeling safe. So those are red flags. Your emotions, and I've mentioned this before, your emotions are your compass. And if you feel positive, energetic, and uplifted from a conversation with somebody, that is a good sign. That's one of the signs you want to look for. You want to feel empowered just by having the conversation with a person. You don't want to have to second guess yourself and doubt yourself. So feeling empowered, feeling uplifted, whether you go to the doctor's office or whoever it is that is on your team. And when it comes to going through the fertility journey, you absolutely have every right to handpick your team and to really, really figure out who the right person is, because it is so important to have the right people on your team. In my own business, I have seen people go with the wrong doctors and have the wrong results or poor results. And I've seen people go and get many different other opinions. That's typically when they end up finding the right person, is when they go and shop around. And once they do that and they do find the right person, I've seen them do much better and have better results. So there's something really amazing that happens when you find people that you truly are aligned with. So I just really want you to always consider how you feel when you are shopping around for either a coach or a doctor or any practitioner or an acupuncturist, anybody. Really consider how you feel when you're speaking to them and how you feel about yourself. Do you feel empowered? Do you feel hopeful? Do you feel strengthened and vibrant? Those are signs that this might be a good person for you, because energetically in your gut, you really do know. And I would hate for what happened to my client to happen to anybody else. And I figured the best way to really empower you and to have you think about this is just to do an episode talking about the importance and what not to go for, what's not based in truth. And typically this goes on every level. It happens even with relationships, with everything, with a boss. You always want to feel empowered with the people that you're with. And it's okay to be challenged. Being challenged is not the same as being disempowered. Somebody can challenge you, but it feels like, oh, wow, like this person's going to really teach me. I feel good. You could still feel good about it and feel challenged, and a little bit like, not an easy thing to go through sometimes, to get like the truth, but that's okay. But there's a difference. There's a difference of feeling that way versus feeling just disempowered. And I want to bring this up because I think that it's really important. I was really moved to saying something because I just would hate to hear somebody else going through this. So I hope this brings a little more clarity, and I hope it brings a little more empowerment, to talk about this, because again, it's so important to pick the right people on your team. It's all about the right people, and the right people are like the right ingredients. If you have good ingredients, you can empower and you can change the whole chemistry of the outcome. And if you have the wrong ingredients, you can set yourself back. So it's just really important to do that. And the best way to do that is shop around and also listen to your emotions. Allow your emotions to guide you, because that is what emotions do. Your emotions are a compass. So with that, thank you so much for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this show, and I hope you have a great day. So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.